Hi, I'm Sherilyn from Evoca. In this lesson, I will show you how to navigate around the UDK as well as go into some of the menu and toolbar options that are commonly used. When you first open up the UDK, you will come across a screen that looks similar to this. You've got a box at the bottom which you can walk around on, and they've given you a box in the middle. You've also got a sky that pans nicely and a sun and all sorts of other little options which I'll go into. The first thing you want to do is you're probably thinking, how am I rotating this screen around? It's very simple. All you need to do is hold your finger down on the right mouse button and hold it and drag around. And all I'm doing is I'm doing it in a spinning location, sort of a round circle type thing. Now say for example, I want to move from where I am over to this box here. Simple way of doing that is if you keep your finger down on the right mouse button key and you hit the W key on the keyboard. As you can see, as I tap it, I am getting closer. If I want to go backwards, I can either turn my camera back around and hit W and I'll go back, or you can easily go S while you're still looking at the box and hit S and go backwards. The UDK uses your standard keys that you would use in a game. So D would also pan, as does A. So you've got your W, S, A, and D keys. Now say for example you have got a large level and you want to get from A to B very, very quickly. It might take forever if you're using your W key, just as I am. But to actually make it go faster, it's so simple. All you do is while you're actually panning it across, you move your scroll wheel away from you. If I move the scroll wheel away from me, it is going faster and faster. And as you can see, as I spin around, I'm further away from the original location. Come up, as you can see, very fast. But as I'm coming up to it, I'm thinking, okay, I'm coming in too fast. I need to slow it down. So very, very easy. All you do is instead of moving the scroll bar away from you, scroll the scroll bar towards you and watch what happens. I'm slowing down. So moving the scroll bar away speeds it up. Moving it closer to you or towards you will slow it down. Now there's also some other little buttons on here that actually affect your scrolling as well. If you have a look to here, you've got this little button here. That's your camera movement speed. As you can see at the moment, by default it's got this little tiny blue line here. That's the slowest. You can, as this also works in conjunction with your scrolling. So if I click on this and it goes higher and higher and higher, that is the speed. So if I move this, it'll go faster. Again, I can use my scroll to make it slower and faster again. And then faster again. And as you can see, as I'm using my scroll, I am slowing it down and speeding it up. So that is the easiest way to get around your level. It's just by holding down the right mouse button, using your W, A, S, and D keys, and panning around the level. Now another thing that you'll get used to is using different views. At the moment, this is called the perspective view. It's like a 3D view. And how I know it's a perspective view is not only does it look 3D, but if I come across to this button here, P for perspective. If I click on it, we've got the top view. If I pan out, the front view, and the side view. If I click it again, it'll go back to perspective. Now, there are going to be times where you're going to need to see all of your views. You're going to need to see the top view, the side view, the front view, and of course your perspective, especially when you are building a level using builder brushes. So, there are different ways of actually viewing the screen differently. So, if we come up to View and Viewport Configuration. At the moment it's set on 2x2 split, which I'll show you what 2x2 split is in a minute. But if I change this to 1x2 split, watch what happens. I have got my perspective, And I've got two splits here, the top and the side. If I come back up to view, viewport configuration, 1x1 horizontal split. That'll show the perspective and one of the views, the top view. And yes, I can cycle through these to show the other views as well. If I go back to view, viewport configuration, 1x1 vertical, same as your horizontal, only it's vertically done instead. And then if I go back to view, viewport configuration at 2x2 split, you see all of the views. So this way you can see the side, the front, the top, and the perspective all at once. Now you're probably thinking, okay, that's pretty cool, but what if I want to tear off a copy and put it onto another screen, especially if you're using multiple monitors? Very simple. Say I want to tear off this perspective one, this little button here, tear off floating copy. So I click on that, and as you can see, it's torn off a floating copy, and I can resize that, or I can snap that to make that the full size of my screen. So what I can do, even though the recording is off, this will be off the recording, all I do is I move it across to my other screen, and it's now on my other screen. As simple as that. So that's how you can also get around the viewports. Now say for example you wanted to use just one screen, I want to maximize the perspective view. Same as any application, click on this button, it maximizes the viewport. If I then want to go back quickly to my 4 views, I click this button again and it snaps back down and I see all my views. Okay, some other buttons that I'll show you as well. We've got here, you've got your new, create a new level, open an existing file. We have the save buttons. You've got save current level, save all levels. This is if you have got streaming levels and you want to save all the levels at once. This saves all writable packages, so this will save any packages that you have created in the content browser that you haven't saved, as well as your map file. Of course, you've got your undo and redo buttons. These are grayed out because I haven't done anything. And then you've got your selection buttons here. You've got the selection mode, which allows me to click and I get this little arrow here. I can click on anything in here. This button here is translation mode. As you can see, I can translate my boxes. This one here is your rotate. Then we've got 2 different scaling modes. One of them, we have got uniform scaling. So if I've got the scaling tool and I grab this, you'll notice the box scales evenly. What if I didn't want to scale it evenly? Simple. Select this next button, and then you select whatever axes you want. And as you can see, it's only scaling in one axis. Then you have got your local and your world view, which I will show a little bit later on with static meshes. This here is really handy as your level grows. If you want to try and find a certain actor in your level and you can't find it, if you click on search for actors, search for, say for example, I want to search for lights. If I type in light, it will show up all the different lights that are in the level. It's easy for you to find certain pieces of assets that you're looking for. This little button here, you'll use a lot. It is your content browser. This I will go into a little bit later, but this will open and close your content browser for you. This button here is Kismet. I will also go into that a little bit later. This is where you can do a lot of fun stuff. Opening, closing doors, assigning sounds on footsteps, or assigning sounds so you've got a creaking door. All sorts of really cool coding stuff can go on in here. Then you have got your own Unreal Matinee, which I can't open yet because I don't have anything open. I will go into that a little bit later. This button here, allow translucent selection. This is very, very handy to have. What this allows you to do is if you've got a water body, of course water bodies are translucent. If you don't have this button on and you want to select that water body, you click on it, it'll probably click what's underneath it. So make sure that button is selected. You can then click on the water body and you'll be able to select that water body. Okay, the next option here is build geometry. Now at the moment I haven't really made any changes for that to work. So say for example you have got a box. If I quickly build a box here. And I'll go into this further a bit later. I've got myself a box here. Say, for example, I decide to make changes to this box. I decide, okay, no, I don't want it to be that size. I want it to be different. So what I can do is I can come into my mode here. I can select my builder brush, and let's just rescale this a little bit bigger. I come back into lit mode. Now at the moment you're probably going, oh, that doesn't look any good. You've made the box bigger, but the box actually hasn't gone bigger. That's because we need to build it. So if I hit this button here, as you can see, my little box is now a lot bigger. So the builder brush, if you make any changes to BSP, allows you to build that geometry again. You've also got build paths, build cover nodes, build all. This allows you to build all, including paths, cover nodes, lighting, anything. We want to build all and set it to source control. Because we don't have perf force on this, we don't need to worry about this. Now this little button here is very, very handy. This is your lighting quality setting. Now while you are building a level, you want to stay on possibly preview mode. As I tick this, you can see we've got changed from M, H, and P. The M means medium quality, H for high, P for production. So once you are ready to fully build your level with the proper lighting, you would change it to production. Over here you got full screen mode. As you can see, it basically just gets rid of some of the icons. You've got toggle real-time audio. I don't have my sound on at the moment, but if I had audio in here, I could toggle it on and off. Then we have emulate mobile features. What this allows you to do is if you are building a level for iPhone, iPad, Android, this allows you to emulate that iDevice or the Android device. Edit mobile previewer settings. What that allows you to do again is edit the preview settings of your mobile game that you are perhaps creating. This button here allows you to start it in mobile mode. So again, you're emulating a mobile device. This one here allows you to install it on an iOS device. So iPhone, iPad, whatever device you want. This one here starts the level on the PC. So what it does is it'll actually start it as if you've just installed it on the computer instead of playing in editor mode. This one here enables you Kismet debugging. Again, that will be for another lesson. Okay, the next button here, this allows you to play the level in an editor window. At the moment, I don't have much of a level, as you can see, but I have got the player start. So if I click on this button here, this will bring up another window, and if I move the mouse around and start walking, I'm actually playing in another window, just like I would as though it was installed on a machine. Now a couple of other little buttons that are across the top here, which I'll also go into. This button here is your clipping. So if I move it, as you can see, I have got this little sort of box here that comes closer to me. That is the clipping plane. So you want to try and keep that all the way to the side there. And this one here, this is select to use low quality materials. This is if you want to speed up your process while you're actually designing your level. But of course, remember to make sure you don't have that selected when you're testing to make sure high quality is on. Now other buttons here, I won't go into all of these, but if you click on this little button here, this brings up a whole stack of different options. There is a lot to go into. There's no harm in you going in and fiddling around. This is just so much to go into, so I won't, but have a play, see what you can find in here. Of course, we've been through this one. This shows you the different viewport type. Now this one here is real time. This is very handy if you're trying to get something done. You don't want to see all the particles moving. You don't want to see the sky moving. At the moment you can see that the sky is moving. So if I turn this off, the sky stops. It does save on memory while you are designing or doing your level. These next buttons are very important. This button here is your wireframe. As you can see, everything is in wireframe mode. Now this is very handy if you want to try and grab your builder brush. So if I was to grab this builder brush here, move it to the side. You can see that that box that it's created, there's the square here for it. So this is handy if you want to be able to select this and perhaps resize it. It allows you to select it easily. And of course, again, when you have made changes, don't forget to hit that build brush. The next one here is wireframe. It's no different really to the builder brush one. The next one here is unlit mode. As you can see, this does not look very nice. You're looking at it going, ugh. If you ever see your level looking like this, it's because you're probably in unlit mode. The next one is the pretty one, the lit mode. It looks all pretty. The next one across is detail lighting. Now this will only show up if you have got normal maps in particular on your levels. It'll show the detail lighting really punching those normal maps. This one here is lighting only. As you can see, no textures, the sky's all gone. It's just showing your lighting. And this one is your lighting complexity. Now this is very important, especially if you're creating large levels. What the lighting complexity shows you is anything as green is A-OK basically. Later on I will show you what can happen if you put in trees. You'll probably notice that there are pinks, whites and reds. They're usually the things you want to try and avoid as much as possible. You will not be able to totally get away with it, of course, because foliage does have translucency and transparency, so you won't be able to fully get away from it, but at least you can have a look at your level and go, why is it sluggish? Have I got too much transparency on my level? And this allows you to check that. The next one here is texture density. Again, I will go into this a little bit later once we have something with textures on it. This one here is shader complexity. This is also important to tell you how complex the shader is. Again, green is good. The next one is lighting only, and it shows you your texel density, which is these little tiny square boxes here. This one here is game mode. And what this does is this turns everything off, so all you are in is game mode. So if, for example, I look at this box and I select it and I go, where's my brush gone? It's because you're in game mode. So if you turn it off, I can now see my button here. So again, if you're ever in game mode and all you see is this little plus, just click on game mode and it'll take you back. G is also the shortcut on the keyboard. I'm hitting G here, and as you can see, it's going in and out of game mode. Now this little button here locks the viewport. I don't really use it much myself, but if you want to lock it onto that viewport and not use others, you can use that. This one here is your viewing mode. It turns on and off. As you can see, I've turned off that little box because that's what I had selected. Level streaming previs, what this allows you to do is if you have got large levels and you need to check that the level streaming is actually working, this is the button for you, but I will not be going fully into this. This here is post-processing. This, if you've got post-processing, this shows on it, you can turn it on and off. So if you've got a level with several different post-processing volumes, you can go through that, you can turn that on and off. You can work with it on, work with it off. Of course, we've been through this button here, and this one here plays in viewport. And all I do is if I hit play, it'll just play it in the viewport mode instead of opening up a separate level. So these are the main buttons that are across here. Now, if you come across here, you've got more buttons here. This one is your camera mode. Simple, we're in camera mode. Now this one here allows you to modify your builder brush. I will go into that a little bit later. If I close it, it'll go back to camera mode. This button here is actually is a terrain one, and it is actually redundant. Please try not to use this. Do not use this button for creating terrains. It's now landscape, and I'll show you that button in a minute. This one here is texture alignment mode. I can't show you this unless we've got a texture on it. That allows you to shift the textures up and down, left and right. This here is your paintbrush, and what this allows you to do is if you've got a material and you want to put, say, moss on parts of a rock, if you set up your material with paintable, vertex paintable meshes, you can use this to actually paint certain materials. This one here is static mesh mode. it shows you all your different static meshes so long as you've got your static mesh selected. Now this one here is your landscape button. This is what we now use to create a landscape. This is for another lesson, but if you want to go and explore creating a landscape, please use this, not the terrain one. This next button here is your foliage mode. You can paint on anything at all. I will also go into that a little later. It doesn't have to be just foliage. You can paint on any static mesh or any mesh that's got wind animation or anything on it using this little tool. These next buttons here are your different brush modes. If I want to create a box or a cube, if I want to create a cone, if I want to create staircase, cylinders, linear staircase, a sheet, a spiral, staircase, a sphere, or just some cards. Again, we'll go into that a little bit later. Your CSG here, this is when you're actually creating a cube or a stairs or anything. If I select this here and I hit this button, this will create a box. Done. If I then move this into it here and I select this one, as you can see, it's actually erasing that box. Okay, this next button is actually quite important, the volumes button. What this allows you to do is, say for example, I've got this little box here and I want to create some sort of a volume, whether it's a swimmable volume, whether it's a post-processing volume, or the very important light mass importance volume. With the builder brush selected, all I do is I right click on this add volume, and as you can see we have got a lot to use. You've got all these different options. You've even got a really cool ladder volume, you've got gravity, you've got physics, everything in here. So say for example I decided that I wanted to put that volume there as a trigger volume. I can select that and click on that. That will now turn it into a green brush, and with that, using Kismet, I can then create a trigger. So I can, if I wanted to, walk into that and have something blow this box up. So that's what a trigger volume is for an example, but you can use any volume you want. These next modes are your selecting modes. This shows selected only, so if I select something that's been hidden, I can click on that and it'll show it. If I want to hide it, I can hide the selection. I want to invert selection, so what will happen is if I have this selected, an invert selection will hide this and show this, and vice versa. And if I want to show all. So if you realised, oh, where's everything gone? You may have accidentally hidden it. So select show all to show it all. And this here allows you to go to certain things. So go to actor. So if I had an actor in here, I can click on it, hit go to actor. It'll automatically snap to the actor, or go to brush. So I could have a brush selected and maybe a million miles out from it, hit that button and it'll go to that builder brush. So these are your icons that come within the UDK. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to open up a level. So say for example you want to open up one of Epic's levels, or if you happen to have your own, it's extremely simple. Just come up to the file menu and go open. This will bring up automatically the maps content. So if you had your own content, you've probably got it under the content folder. So if you click on content to come back one, you probably have your own folder in here with your map. But if I want to open up one of Epic's ones, I'll make sure I'm in maps, and I can choose a map from anywhere in here. So for example, the showcases, if I want to show the foliage map, double click on foliage map and give it a moment or two to open. And there we go. And that is how you can open up a map. Very simple. Very pretty. And I can also here demonstrate to you the selection of the water. This is the perfect example. If you remember from before, as I said, if you don't have it selected, you can't actually click on the body of water. So at the moment, that is allowing translucent selection. If I click here, it actually selects the water and just the water. But if I had that turned off, as you can see, it is selecting anything that might be underneath it. It is not actually selecting the water itself. So make sure anything with translucency is selected. Then if you click, you can select that body of water. And another example that I showed you earlier, which was about the real time. At the moment, real time is off. See how the water is no longer flowing and the caustics are no longer moving? But if I turn this button on, real time is showing. If I want to save this level, again, simple, File, Save Current Level, Save As if you want to create it with a new name. So if I chose Save As, Follies map, say V2, that's created a whole new map with the V2 in it. So this is how you can open and save levels. If you want to create a new level, if you go to File, New Level, it'll bring up a map template. You've got the choice of afternoon lighting, morning lighting, midday or night, or just a blank map. So say, for example, I decide, oh yeah, I'll use one of their templates. I want to do a night one. Select night lighting, and there we go. Night is selected. So what we have learnt in this lesson is how to get about the UI, how to navigate, how to scale, rotate, move, how to build the lighting, or what button builds the lighting, how to play in editor mode, the different brushes that you have, the different types of volumes, how to save, and so forth.